College is more than a place. It's a journey. Welcome to the Two Night Show, where we explore the moments and ideas that shape us and the impact we make through conversations with Green Knights and other inspiring voices. If you know Green Bay basketball, you know the Grzesk name. On this episode, we're talking with father-son duo Gary and Garrett Grzesk. From game film at the dinner table to NCAA tournament runs, it's a story of growth, trust, and balancing the roles of coach and player, dad and son. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We're here in a very special episode of the Tonight Show. I've got two nights here, so we're kind of the three-night show today. We're in the Mulva Family Fitness Center on Connie Tilley Court. I'm here with Gary Grzesk and Garrett Grzesk. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us, Maureen.
Absolutely. So we are winding down your senior year, Garrett. And Gary, we just finished up your 18th season. You've coached hundreds of players here at St. Norbert.
Yeah.
What the past 4 years, can you describe that to me?
Yeah, it's been an amazing experience. You know, when I got the job here, it wasn't with the idea that I would one day coach my son. When I started here, he was in childcare on campus in the Children's Center, preschool here, and then eventually grade school at Father Alloway, and then high school at Notre Dame, and ended up wanting to play college basketball. So it's been an amazing experience, very challenging, especially at the beginning. The first year was very difficult. It got a little bit better as time went on. His sophomore year, the team had more success, he had more success. And then I think he finally felt comfortable in his own skin as a junior and a senior. But I think initially I was so anxious to coach him, I was pointing out every little mistake and trying to correct and coach everything. And then through his mother, I got a lot of feedback that he wasn't very happy and maybe even thought about not playing. And then it almost went in the opposite direction where I was a little afraid to say anything to him.
Sure.
But then you also rely on assistant coaches and different people like that. And even his teammates, eventually his sophomore year, were encouraging him to shoot more and be a little more confident in his game. So it definitely got better as it went along. And I would not have traded this experience for anything.
What about you, Gary? Anything you want to echo off of that?
I'd say he summed it up pretty well, but yeah, the first year or two is definitely very difficult. It's kind of difficult to come into college sports, and obviously you know your coach is going to be really good, but at the same time he's also the hardest one on you.
Yeah.
So that was pretty hard for me at first because I also knew I probably wasn't going to, play right away or be like the best player on the floor, which probably was the case in high school. But yeah, so that was difficult, and then yeah, it got better every year, I would say, just learning how we can bounce off of each other and learning how to be coached by my dad. I'd say was the hardest thing that I had to learn in college. But
And do you feel like you put a lot of pressure on yourself because you felt like there was pressure from dad?
For sure, I would say there was a little bit of self-forced pressure on myself because I did want to be really good and want to be the best, so there was never a question. But yeah.
I appreciate your guys' honesty because I was coached by my dad in high school, and college is a different level. Like, this is not just the AAU basketball team that you get coached by your dad during the summer. Like, this is the real deal. So
yeah, the level of accountability in college, and like he said, going from maybe one of your best players on your high school team to starting over as a freshman. So the level of accountability at college is a whole different step. And I think the other thing that was hard, I never coached him growing up. I think I was like an assistant T-ball coach when he was real little.
Sure, not basketball.
So all of a sudden you get to college and it's the first time that you're hearing this level of accountability. Get in a stance, run the floor, get back on defense, box out. That was a bad shot. And then it's also coming from your dad for the first time too. So I think, like I said, it was a learning process for both of us, especially that first year.
Now, how was like family Christmases and like when Garrett would come home for dinner maybe on a Sunday night? Like, did you guys have a hard time keeping basketball on the court?
Go ahead.
You want me to answer this? I would say we kept basketball out of the way at home for most of the time, but I also understand that we both enjoy the game of basketball a lot, and it's something that we've, shared knowledge of and have a lot in common with before I even got to college. Like, it's something that we like to talk about is basketball. So I would say on days where we were getting along, we would probably talk about basketball at home. But if we weren't getting along, maybe basketball wasn't getting brought up at the dinner table. So yeah, it made its way home sometimes. But,
Okay, got it. But in a civil manner.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think when he would come home, it wouldn't be, "Hi, Coach." It would be, "Hi, Dad." And then I would respond, "Hi, son." But like he said, eventually it would turn to basketball in some form, or my wife, his mom, Liz, would bring up basketball, and inevitably we'd start talking about it. But we tried to make a conscious effort. When he was at home, it was father and he was son,
Yeah.
but eventually it would turn into a basketball conversation.
Now, Garrett, do you remember when you were like, okay, I want to go to St. Norbert? Was it ever not a thought in your mind that you wanted to play for your dad?
Yeah, I don't think it was ever not a thought that went into my head. I kind of figured out, I'd say my sophomore, junior year of high school, that I probably did want to play college basketball because I liked it so much. And I knew I knew I wasn't going to go Division I. I didn't have that athleticism. So I figured if it was going to be Division III basketball that I'm playing, it would be here. So, I've kind of dreamed of playing here since I was little. I've seen every conference championship team here growing up in the stands as a little kid, and I would always think it was the coolest thing to see them winning championships. And winning is also a big part of winning is also a big part of basketball for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of always knew I would end up here.
Speaking off of that, I remember a time, for those of people who don't know, my husband played for you, Coach, and I remember when there was a time that, Garrett, you were shorter than I was, and I remember seeing you up in the stands. Now, Gary, do you ever remember thinking, oh, it'd be really cool to see Garrett in a Green Knight jersey? When did...
Yeah, I guess I didn't want to put that pressure on him if he didn't want to play college basketball. So yeah, I'm not really sure how it was going to turn out when he was growing up. I know he enjoyed it. He enjoyed baseball, dabbled in soccer for a little bit, and eventually kind of honed in on basketball. I guess the one thing I felt bad, most kids get recruited by a number of schools and take different visits and look at different options. I think a lot of people around the state in Division III just assumed he was going to come play at St. Norbert.
Yeah.
So I think he missed out a little bbit on the recruiting process or being able to look at other schools. I know his junior year, he had his career high in a regional final against Kaukauna, had 30-some points. And Bob Semling from Stevens Point was there. And we were in Platteville for the first round of the NCAA tournament, so I didn't get to see it. But Liz said, Bob Semling came up and said Stevens Point would be interested in recruiting him if he would have an interest in Stevens Point. And it never got to the point where he took a visit, but that kind of stood out to me that he never really got that opportunity to compare St. Norbert against other schools. So I kind of felt bad on that end.
I never even thought about that, but it makes sense. Wow. Okay. Garrett, do you remember any moment from maybe the past 4 years? I know this past year was a memorable one for obviously the success that you guys had, but anything that really stands out that you'll look back on and you won't forget, maybe you'll tell your kids someday?
I think the first NCAA tournament trip that we took my sophomore year, we won the conference championship game at Wisconsin Lutheran, and it was just immediate joy, and we were all overwhelmed, just from that experience. And then I just remember my dad was the first person that he turned to and came up to me, and we were hugging after we won, which was really cool. And that's a moment that I won't forget. And that was probably the same thing my senior year when we won at Wisconsin Lutheran again, and he came up and hugged me. And I don't know, there's moments like that where you're winning conference championships and you're going to the NCAA tournament, and then you get to do that with your dad and experience that with him was something that I'll never forget.
That's so special. Do you have the same memory?
Yeah, I recall the sophomore year a little bit differently because when the game ended, I did kind of search him out and wanted to give him a hug. but he was in front of the Wisconsin Lutheran student section, like waving
Oh,
goodbye
okay.
to him as the horn went off. And eventually he found his way back to me. So I remember it a little bit differently than he did. But yeah, certainly those two memories, because those years we weren't going to get an at-large bid. Like, you're in a one-game playoff to earn the automatic bid on an opponent's floor. We've been fortunate to host a number of those conference tournament games at home over the years, but the last two times we qualified, we were at Wisconsin Lutheran in that one-game playoff. So there's so much that goes into that one game. There's so much pressure on it, and then to win it and to be able to celebrate it with these guys was pretty special.
That's really cool. I love that you guys kind of have like that. You had that same moment too that you'll remember forever. Now, on the other side of things, do you guys have any memorable arguments that you're going to remember for years to come?
I'm going to go first on this.
Okay.
So, it was his freshman year, the game before Thanksgiving break on a Tuesday.
That's always a tough game.
Yeah, right. So we went up to Eau Claire, 3 hours there, and he did not play well at all. He'd be the first to admit that. So as a coach, we're holding him accountable really with playing time. So he didn't play that much. It was a hard-fought game, very low scoring. We won like 47-46. He was very happy for the team. It was a great atmosphere in the locker room. The kids have a couple days off. And then we take the long bus trip back to St. Norbert. We get dropped off in De Pere by the bus, and it's Thanksgiving break. And I said, do you want me to take you home tonight so you can be at home with us? And he turns to me and says, matter of fact, I'm not coming home. I don't want to see you. And so I tried to explain, like, this is a coach-player thing. I was holding you accountable with playing time, but he was just so disappointed he didn't play more. And at the same time, my wife is calling me, telling me, you need to fix this with our son so he does come home for Thanksgiving. And then some of the assistant coaches got involved and started talking him down a little bit. So I still don't think he came home on that Tuesday night. It took till Wednesday morning before things kind of settled down. But that was probably as bad as it got over the 4 years in my mind.
Okay, so less than 24 hours.
Yeah.
Garrett?
Yeah, it was probably the same memory. I did not want to come home for Thanksgiving at all. I was going to stay at school the entire Thanksgiving break.
In the moment, you're in the heat of it, right? And now you look back on it and it's not as important, but at the time it was pretty impactful.
Yeah, I mean, that's my freshman year too. It's a physical game, probably not a game that I really would have thrived in anyways, and I wasn't playing well. Obviously really happy that the team won, but, my disappointment wasn't really with the team. It was more with myself. And, obviously it's so easy to take my anger out on him because he's my head coach, but also my dad too. So, in the moment, I did not want to see him at all.
Have you guys ever taken a personality test? Or do you have the same personality types?
No, we haven't taken a personality test. I would say the thing that's similar is that we're both young for our grades. I'm a July birthday. I was always one of the youngest kids in my class. He is at the end of July. And so I think the trend was to hold kids back, make them a little bit older for maturity, for athletic purposes. But we were told he was ready academically by the people here on campus. And I always kind of wondered if some of the things that came up emotionally would have been different if we would have held him back. But then on the flip side, he would not have made the teammates and friends that he's had in this senior class. Like, I think those 4 teammates of his that are all graduating this year are going to be in each other's weddings. They're going to be lifelong friends, just like Ben and his teammates were. I have that same feeling about this group of seniors. So, yeah, I do kind of wonder if he would have been maybe a little bit more mature, a little bit better physically if we would have held him back. But I was in that same boat, and it worked out all right for me, and I don't think it would have changed anything for him.
Yeah. Anything you want to add to that, Garrett?
I summed it up pretty well. Like he said, if I didn't come here in that year, I wouldn't have made all the friends I've made this year. And even the seniors that I played with and juniors and guys ahead of me. Those are all great guys and guys that I'll be friends with for forever. So I'm kind of grateful that I got here when I did, and just the way it worked out was all good.
And a really great way to end your college basketball career. You guys, I wrote down some of the stats, and I'm sure there's more that I might have missed, but you guys were 23-7. You made the NCAA tournament. Garrett, you beat 1,000 career points. Congratulations on that. First team all conference, third team all region by D3hoops.com. Gary, another successful season for you. You had your 400th win. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
What did it mean for both of you? And, maybe we start with Garrett on this one. What did it mean to be a part of your dad's 400th career win?
I think it just shows that I was just not really another step in the journey, but, like a part of a very long tradition of winning here at St. Norbert's, and I've been here to watch like all of those, however many wins he's had before I got here too, which is pretty crazy to think about. And then, just being there for 400 is really cool. It's kind of hard to put it into words, just everything that, you feel and that's going on in the moment. But, just part of a really long tradition of winning, which is why we get a lot of good kids that come here that know they're going to win when they play basketball here. So
absolutely. Anything you want to add to that, Gary?
No, and when it happened, it was at Lakeland, and I didn't even know until after the game. I turned on my phone, and Stephen Hofacker was the first one to text me, congratulations on 400. So it's not anything that you're tracking or keeping track of. It just kind of happened over time, and I didn't realize it until I turned on my phone. And then a couple of the players found out on social media. So then it started to hit you a little bit more. And then you have a chance, 400, and you start to think a little bit and reflect about all those teams, all the kids that have come through and just played so hard, sacrificed so much for the team over those years. So when you hit kind of one of those milestones and you have a day off or a little time, it gives you a chance to reflect and think about all those special kids that have come through that I've been so lucky to coach.
Well, you've also touched their lives as well and their families' lives. I can say that from firsthand experience. Gary, what did it mean to be the coach of Garrett and the rest of the seniors? What did it mean to be their coach on such a memorable, successful year?
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting season. We had lost two pretty good players, three seniors off of last year's team. Connor Velker, who was hurt most of his career. Evan Glazer was a first-team all-conference player. Carter Gebler was a first-team all-conference point guard. So there were some question marks coming into this year. And the question was, could they make the jump from being maybe a secondary scorer, a third option, to the top of the scouting report or a marked guy or a known commodity? So there were certainly some question marks coming into the season. And we really started out fast. We were 9-1 going into the new year. Lost in the conference, or our Christmas tournament, Nicolay National Bank Holiday Tournament, lost to Platteville, who was number 2 in the country in overtime. And then we had a tough stretch. So we went from 9-1, and then our next time through those struggles, we were 10-6. And we were just trying to find a way to win a game, get some confidence, and we ended up winning at Benedictine, a very close game. And then we had a number of close games after that we were fortunate to win in the last possession or a game-winning shot. And so we won 13 in a row, and then end up playing our best basketball at the very end of the year. So I think just winning some of those close games late in the season gave us some confidence. And then we really just started to play well going into the conference tournament against Marion for their senior night, the conference tournament against Aurora, MSOE, and then Wisconsin Lutheran. So you want to be playing your best basketball at the end of the year, and that's what we did this year.
Yeah, and you ended the season in lacrosse to a very good lacrosse team, but you guys, you battled it out. I remember watching from my kitchen at home the first game that you guys played against?
Carthage.
Yeah. That was a thriller, for sure.
Yeah, I think we had 62 points in the first half.
That's crazy.
And I've told these guys, that was probably the best half of basketball that I've seen one of our teams play in 18 years here. It could not have gone any better. We could not have played any better. And then we were fortunate to hang on at the very end because it got to be pretty close down the stretch, and then ended up losing to Lacrosse on their floor in the second round. But you couldn't have wrote a better story for these guys to go out as seniors.
Absolutely. Now, looking ahead to next year, you've got how many seniors coming in?
We'll have no seniors in next year's group, so
Okay.
a little bit of an odd year. We always say you kind of win with juniors and seniors. So to not have that senior group will be a little bit difficult. But then you're also looking at it as a 2-year process. You're going to have the same group of guys now for the next 2 years going forward. And I think there's good players there that have just waited for their opportunity. So they've been stuck behind some guys, or their role hasn't been as significant as it will be next year and going forward. So I'm kind of anxious to see what we'll do next year. Like I said, I think some of those guys have been working for that opportunity, waiting for it. Some of those guys that don't get on the floor in the games make us better in practice every day. But now they're going to have an opportunity with what we lose with these 5 seniors to get that opportunity to play on the floor.
Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Now, Garrett, you are going to be watching from the stands again. What's that going to be like for you?
It's going to be weird being back in the stands
Yeah.
for sure, because it started off there, then you play. Now you're an alumni back in the stands. But
Next to your mom who's cheering from and coaching from the stands?
yeah, right. But I know, the freshmen and sophomores on the team right now, and we've grown pretty close over the last 2 years and last year.
Yeah.
So I'll be really interested to see what those guys do going forward. And, I'll care about them for the duration of their career too. So, I mean, it'll be teams that I'm invested in a lot for sure and that I care about. But
And it seems like you've been pretty invested in not just like the St. Norbert program, but I know you, as soon as the Monday after you guys lost in lacrosse, you were in the Notre Dame Academy gym helping those guys for their playoff season.
Yeah. Bobo sent me a text and was like, we'd love to have you in for some practices. And I was more than willing to do that for Notre Dame, who I played for in high school. And that was a fun experience too, because I wasn't fully over basketball yet.
Yeah.
I was like, what's next? It can't really be over, because that didn't set in for a while until after, our season was over. So, yeah, that was fun.
Cool. That's great. Now, basketball runs in your blood. Everybody in your family plays basketball, played basketball. Now, Dad coaches. Do you think you'll coach?
I think it's inevitable at some point that I'll coach. Yeah. I like basketball way too much to stay away from it. So I definitely will be coaching in my future. It's just a matter of when.
Well, any future kids that you coach, they're lucky to have you,
Thank you.
especially with the experience that you guys have. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so graduation's fast approaching. Has it hit you yet?
It's starting to set in a little bit, yeah. Yeah, we're less than a month away now, so it's definitely starting to set in that I'm getting old.
No, you're not. Don't worry. You've got quite a lot. You have to be an adult now, but
Yeah.
you're not old. What's next? Can you share a little bit about what you've got planned next? Some job interviews?
Yeah, I have a job interview with Nicolay National Bank next week, which, they got a lot of St. Norbert alumni that work for them, and that's a great company that I'd love to work for.
Yeah.
If not, maybe coaching is something that I follow for, my job career. So I think either way, whatever I do, it'll be a good experience. And yeah, I can't go wrong with what I'll do after college. So I'm excited.
And you've got a lot of different capabilities too. You said you're a double major.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And can you just share what your route was here at St. Norbert?
In business administration and then communication media studies. So I was really originally just going to minor in communication, and then I talked to my advisor, and he said, you can double major if you want. And I was like, screw it, let's do it.
That's great. That's great. Now, Dad, how's it going to be watching him walk across the aisle? He's the first one.
Yeah, it'll be pretty surreal to go through graduation, support him and his 4 other senior teammates. But it's just part of the next step.
Mm-hmm.
So to see that happen will be a proud moment for us.
Yeah.
You want to see them be successful and happy in life. And he's had a great academic career here, has made some lifelong friends, and then to see it come full circle, going through graduation with a double major. These kids are here for basketball in the winter anyway, so I think when he thought about it, it was a couple extra classes, but when you really look at it, because we overlap both semesters, they can pick up a J term here, J term there, and if you come in with an AP class or a college credit class or a dual credit, double majoring is pretty doable. And so I'm proud of him for doing that. It would have been pretty easy to not take those J-term classes and just get the business administration major, but he wanted to be a little bit more aggressive and take some extra classes and ended up double majoring in 4 years.
That's great. That's really great. All right, now we're going to get into our lightning round. So I've got a series of questions, and you guys, I'd like to have one kind of word answers, but if not, that's okay. And it's kind of unique because we've got 2 people this time, so we'll try to go as fast as we can in a minute. All right, I'll have Tom start the clock. Here we go. All right, favorite basketball player? We'll start with Garrett.
Dirk.
Michael Jordan.
Naturally. Favorite thing to do besides basketball, Garrett?
Video games.
Movies.
Describe S&C in one word.
Home.
Family.
Best food in the calf.
Potato bowl.
Steak bowls.
Okay, if you had to sum up the past 4 years in one phrase or word, what would it be?
Unforgettable.
Rewarding and challenging at the same time, but something I wouldn't ever trade for.
Love it. Okay, do we have enough time for a bonus? Okay, if you could have a superpower, what would it be?
To fly.
Read people's minds.
All right. I feel like the read people's minds is a little more common than I would expect, but the flying, that's a new one for me. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. You'd be tall in the sky. Yeah. All right. Another thing that's unique to this podcast is we have a Bible verse of the episode. And Gary, this probably relates a little bit more to you. It's Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6. It reads, "Start children off on the way they should go, and even when they are old, they will not turn from it." Is there anything that you want to add to that, especially as Garrett gets closer to graduation?
No, I'm just glad he kind of found his own path. I mean, as parents, you're there to kind of guide them and put them on that path, but ultimately, and sometimes you have to fail in that path and in that process. So he's made some mistakes along the way, but I'm proud of the person he's become.
Anything you want to add, Garrett?
No, I mean, everything that's led up to this point and where I'm at today is because, of this man right here and then my mother as well. So, I owe it all to them, and I'm thankful for them.
Awesome. Very cool. Now, as we kind of wrap up, is there anything that you guys can kind of pinpoint that you've learned from the past 4 years, whether that's being a dad, being a coach, being a son, being a player, student? Let's start with Gary.
As far as being a coach, I think kids still want to be coached. They want to have that discipline and structure. And I think, we try to find out as much as we can about recruits on the front end, the type of people they are, the type of parents that they have. But I think St. Norbert just has a unique way of attracting great kids. So a lot of the times who those kids are coming out of high school by the time they get there is who they are as young adults. We can shape them and change them a little bit, but we've just been so fortunate to recruit a lot of high character kids, and I think the college has a great way of attracting them.
Garrett, anything that you...
I would just say that playing college sports isn't easy, and I thought it would be a little easier coming into college, but I've learned that there's a lot of challenges to it, and I would say the thing I learned from the most was just the amount of adversity that you're going to face in college. There's not really one lesson that I can take away from it, but just the level of adversity that I've faced. And, obviously overcame, in certain situations is something that I've learned from a lot, and more every year.
That's really, I'm glad that you said that, because I feel like a lot of people think, especially with it being a D3 program, people might think, oh, it might be a little bit easier to play D3, but no, this is college athletics.
Yeah.
It is a different level, and you have to commit, and you have to be a student, and it's not easy, but it's rewarding.
Yeah, and I think the thing with all the D3 athletes is that they have a passion for competing.
Mm-hmm.
In Division III, you don't have that athletic scholarship. You're essentially paying to play college athletics, so that they love it coming in on the front end.
That holds a special place in a student athlete's heart too. It takes a really committed person to do that, and it shows.
Yeah, and you see the world of NIL and transfer portals where these kids are basically being paid to play. It's just changed so much in the last couple of years, and it really hasn't filtered down too much to the Division III level. But these kids really have a passion for the game and competing.
Wonderful. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. It's been great catching up. Garrett, I wish you the best of luck, and Coach, best of luck next season.
Thanks for having us,
Thank
Morgan.
you. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll talk to you guys next time.